My name is Meredith, and at 35 years old, I thought I'd seen the worst of my family's favoritism. But sitting at my own birthday dinner, watching my father demand I hand over $500,000 to fund my sister's latest scheme, I realized I'd been blind to just how deep their betrayal ran. Before I reveal how I exposed 20 years of lies in one unforgettable night, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please like this video and subscribe if stories about family secrets resonate with you. Trust me, what I'm about to share will make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. I need to paint you a picture of who I was before that fateful birthday dinner. See, I wasn't just some bitter sibling crying about unfairness. I was a senior financial analyst at one of Boston's most prestigious Fortune 500 companies. My journey there hadn't been easy, but it had been entirely my own. While other kids were enjoying their college years, I was pulling all-nighters at MIT, maintaining my full scholarship while working 3 jobs to cover what financial aid didn't. Every dollar I earned, every achievement I unlocked, I did it myself. No trust fund, no family connections, just pure determination and an unhealthy amount of coffee. By 35, I'd built an investment portfolio worth $1.2 million. Not because I was some financial genius, but because I lived modestly, saved religiously, and invested wisely. My 2-bedroom condo in Boston's Back Bay wasn't flashy, but it was mine, purchased with my own down payment when I was 28. Preston, my boyfriend of 2 years, often joked that I was the most financially responsible person he'd ever met. As a pediatric surgeon, he understood the value of hard work and dedication. We'd met at a charity fundraiser, bonding over our shared experience of putting ourselves through school without family help. But to understand why that birthday dinner hit so hard, you need to know about the Caldwell family dynamics. My father, Theodore, though everyone called him Ted, was a former pharmaceutical executive who'd retired early with what he claimed was a modest pension. My mother, Diane, ran an interior design business catering to Boston's elite, always dressed impeccably and speaking in that practiced way that screamed old money, even though her background was decidedly middle class. Then there was Scarlett, my younger sister at 31, who had somehow been designated the family's golden child before she could even walk. While I was earning academic scholarships, Scarlett was earning participation trophies that my parents displayed like Olympic medals. And Marcus, our youngest brother at 28, had wisely moved to London after college, maintaining a carefully neutral stance in the family dynamics from across the Atlantic. The favoritism wasn't subtle. When I graduated summa cum laude from MIT, my parents took me to a local Italian restaurant and spent most of the dinner talking about Scarlett's upcoming art show at her college. When Scarlett graduated with a barely passing GPA from her expensive private art school, they rented out an entire yacht for a weekend celebration. Every birthday throughout our childhood followed the same pattern. My birthdays were quiet affairs, often rescheduled if they conflicted with anything in Scarlett's social calendar. I remember my 16th birthday being postponed 3 times because Scarlett had a dance recital, then a friend's party, then simply didn't feel like celebrating someone else. But here's the thing, I'd made peace with it. Or, at least I thought I had. I'd built my life independently, found success on my own terms, and surrounded myself with people who actually valued me. The distance I'd created between myself and my family felt healthy, necessary even. That started changing about a year before the birthday dinner. My promotion to Vice President of Financial Strategy should have been a moment of family pride. Instead, it was met with a distracted, "That's nice, dear," from my mother and a complaint from my father about how my longer hours meant I couldn't help them with some vague financial advice they needed. Meanwhile, Scarlett's art gallery opening, a vanity project funded entirely by our parents, was treated like she'd cured cancer. The gallery lasted exactly 3 months before closing due to creative differences with reality, also known as the fact that no one wanted to buy her amateur paintings priced like Picasso's. The requests started small. My mother would casually mention how tough the economy was for small business owners like herself. My father would hint about some bad investments, quickly brushing past the details. They'd ask probing questions about my savings, always framed as parental concern for my financial well-being. You know, Meredith, my mother said during one particularly transparent fishing expedition, family should help family. That's what separates us from animals. I should have seen the birthday ambush coming. But despite everything, some small part of me still hoped that on my 35th birthday, a milestone year, my family might actually celebrate me for once. How naive could one successful, MIT-educated woman be? As it turns out, extremely. The reservation was at Morton's, one of Boston's most exclusive steakhouses. When my mother had called to confirm the plans, she'd used her sweetest voice, the one she reserved for clients and manipulation. Just family for the first part, darling. Preston can join us for dessert. We have something special to discuss with you. I arrived early as always, checking my coat and settling into our private dining room. The space was elegant, all dark wood and leather, the kind of place where deals worth millions were made over aged whiskey. How ironic that would prove to be. Preston had texted his support, understanding why I needed to face whatever this was alone first. I'm nearby if you need me, his message read. Your spidey senses are probably right. My parents arrived next, my mother air-kissing my cheek while eyeing my simple black dress with barely concealed disapproval. Meredith, darling, you could have dressed up a bit more. It is your birthday. This is Armani, Mom, I replied, though I knew it wouldn't matter. If I'd worn couture, she'd have found something to criticize. We ordered drinks and made small talk about the weather, the traffic, anything but anything meaningful. 20 minutes passed. 30. 45. Should we order appetizers? I suggested, checking my phone. Where's Scarlett? Oh, you know your sister, my father chuckled, as if chronic lateness was an endearing quirk rather than blatant disrespect. She operates on artist time. An hour after our reservation, Scarlett finally swept in, and I used that verb deliberately. She didn't walk anywhere, she made entrances. Designer heels clicked against the floor, a fur coat that had to cost more than most people's cars draped over her shoulders, and on her arm, a man I'd never seen before. Everyone, this is Garrett, she announced, not apologizing for her lateness. Garrett's a venture capitalist. He's been absolutely invaluable in developing my new business concept. Garrett, tall and traditionally handsome in that generic Wall Street way, shook hands around the table. Something in his expression when he met my eyes seemed off, almost apologetic, but Scarlett quickly commanded attention again. Happy birthday, Mare, she said, using the childhood nickname she knew I hated. 35. Practically middle-aged. Thank God I have 4 more years before I hit that milestone. The waiter appeared and we finally ordered. I chose the salmon, already losing my appetite as I watched my parents hang on Scarlett's every word about her revolutionary new business idea. It's not just a wellness retreat, she gushed, her hands moving dramatically as she spoke. It's a transformative experience for creative souls. A place where artists, writers, musicians can come to reconnect with their authentic selves. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart, my mother cooed. Tell Meredith about the property you found. And there it was, the setup. I took a sip of wine and settled back to watch the show unfold. It's perfect, Scarlett continued. 50 acres in the Berkshires, with a main house and 12 guest cottages. The previous owners ran some corporate retreat thing, so boring, but I can see the potential. Yoga studios, art workshops, meditation gardens, farm-to-table dining. Sounds expensive, I noted mildly. That's the beautiful part, my father interjected, and I noticed he'd barely touched his stake. Scarlett's already secured interest from several major investors. Really? I kept my voice neutral. Which firms? Scarlett waved her hand dismissively. Oh, you wouldn't know them. They're more in the creative space than your boring financial world. But they're very interested. We just need bridge funding to secure the property before another buyer swoops in. Bridge funding, I repeated. How much bridge funding? My parents exchanged looks. Garrett shifted uncomfortably in his seat, pulling out his phone and staring at it intently. The moment stretched out until my father cleared his throat and stood, raising his champagne glass. Meredith, you've always been the responsible one in our family, the practical one. We're so proud of how you've managed your finances, living below your means, saving for the future. He paused, and I could see him working up to the punch. Family helps family. That's what we've always taught you children. And now, your sister needs our help to seize this incredible opportunity. How much? Asked again, though I already knew from the title of this story. 500,000, my mother said smoothly. By the end of the month. We've already contributed our share, of course. Liquidated some of our retirement funds because we believe in Scarlett's vision. You want me to give Scarlett $500,000? I said it slowly, making sure I understood. Not give, Scarlett protested. Invest. You'll be a partner. Once the retreat is profitable, you'll make it all back and more. When has any of your businesses been profitable? The question slipped out before I could stop it. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. My mother's face tightened with disapproval. That's unfair, Meredith. Your sister is a visionary. Visionaries sometimes face setbacks before they find their true calling. Setbacks, I repeated. Is that what we're calling the art gallery that closed after 3 months? Or the jewelry line that never launched? Or the food truck that got impounded for health violations? You're being cruel. Scarlett's voice wavered with practiced hurt. Just because everything comes easy to you doesn't mean the rest of us don't struggle. Easy. I almost laughed. I worked 3 jobs through college while you got unlimited credit cards. Meredith, my father's voice carried a warning. You don't have children. You don't have a family to support. Your money is just sitting there, making you more money you don't need. Why wouldn't you help your sister achieve her dreams? I looked around the table. My mother wore her disappointed face, the one that used to make me cave as a child. My father had his stern patriarch expression. Scarlett managed to look both hurt and expectant, like a child certain she'd get the toy if she just held out long enough. Only Garrett looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting between his phone and the exit like he wanted to bolt. Interesting. Preston texted again. Everything okay? I typed back. Define okay. So. Scarlett pressed. Will you help me or not? I took a long sip of wine, letting the silence stretch out. Under the table, I started recording on my phone, a habit from dealing with difficult clients. Then I smiled, the same smile I used in hostile negotiations. Tell me more about these investors who are already committed, I said pleasantly. I'd love to see the business plan, financial projections, market analysis. You know, standard due diligence materials. Due diligence. Scarlett's voice pitched higher. I'm your sister, not some random startup pitching for venture capital. But you are asking for venture capital, I pointed out. $500,000 of it. That's not pocket change, even for someone living below their means. We're family, my mother hissed. We don't need contracts and paperwork between family. I nodded thoughtfully, then looked directly at my father. You said you've already contributed your share. How much was that? That's not relevant, he said stiffly. I disagree. If we're all investing in this family venture, I'd like to know the stake distribution. This isn't about stakes and distributions, Scarlett snapped. This is about believing in me. Supporting me. Being a sister. When has being a sister ever mattered to you? The words came out calm, controlled. When you had my 16th birthday postponed 3 times. When you told everyone at my college graduation party that at least one of us was pretty enough to not need a degree. When you borrowed my car and totaled it, then convinced Mom and Dad it was my fault for lending it to you. You're being dramatic, my father said, but I wasn't done. I'm being factual. But here's what I'll do. Give me 2 weeks to review the opportunity. Send me everything, the property details, investor commitments, business plan, 5-year projections. If it's as solid as you say, I'll consider it. 2 weeks. Scarlett's face flushed. We could lose the property in 2 weeks. Then you'd better get me those documents quickly, I said, standing. Thank you for the birthday dinner. I'll get the check on my way out. Sit down, my father commanded. We're not finished. I am, I said simply. Preston's waiting for me. We have theater tickets. As I walked out, leaving them with their shock and their half-eaten steaks, I heard Garrett finally speak. Maybe we should tell her the truth about. Shut up, Scarlett hissed, and that's when I knew there was so much more to uncover. I didn't sleep that night. Preston held me while I processed the ambush, but by 3 a.m., I was in my home office, laptop open, starting my research. You know what this is about, right? Preston said, bringing me coffee as the sun rose. They're desperate. I know, I replied, pulling up Scarlett's social media. The question is why. Preston's cousin, Jerome, was a forensic accountant who specialized in fraud cases. I'd met him at a family barbecue and remembered being impressed by his attention to detail. By 7 a.m., I was on the phone with him. I need a favor, I said without preamble. I'll pay your full rate, but I need discretion. Family drama, he guessed. Say no more. Send me what you have. What I had wasn't much, just business names and timelines I'd pieced together over the years. But Jerome was thorough. Within 48 hours, he'd compiled a devastating portrait of financial destruction. Your sister has burned through approximately $1.8 million in 7 years, he told me over secure video chat. 5 businesses, all folded within 6 months. But here's the interesting part. There are fraud complaints on 3 of them, all withdrawn after settlements. Settlements? I leaned forward. Paid by whom? Wanna guess? Jerome's expression was grim. Your parents have been cleaning up her messes, paying off complainants to keep her record clean. But they're running out of money. I stared at the numbers on my screen. How is that possible? Dad's pension alone should be substantial. Should be, Jerome agreed. But public records show 3 mortgages on their house. Your mother's business has been operating at a loss for 2 years. And there are some large, questionable transfers to overseas accounts that smell like scam investments. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your sister isn't who you think she is. Neither are your parents. Be careful. A friend. I showed Preston, who immediately insisted we hire professional help. That's how I found Cassandra Reeves, a private investigator with a background in IRS criminal investigations. She came recommended by Jerome and had a reputation for being thorough, discreet, and devastatingly effective. We met at a small cafe in Cambridge, away from anywhere my family might frequent. Cassandra was not what I expected, a small, unassuming woman in her 50s who looked like someone's favorite aunt until you noticed her eyes. Those eyes missed nothing. Financial fraud wrapped in family dynamics, she mused after I'd explained the situation. My favorite kind of case. The emotions make people sloppy. I just need to know what I'm really dealing with, I said. My gut says this goes deeper than just another failed business venture. Your gut's probably right, Cassandra agreed. Let me start with the boyfriend. Garrett, you said? Venture capitalist. She had results within 3 days. I was reviewing quarterly reports at work when she called. Can you meet? You'll want to see this in person. We met at the same cafe. Cassandra slid a folder across the table, and I opened it to find a wedding photo. Garrett, smiling broadly, with a beautiful woman in white who is definitely not my sister. Garrett Morrison, Cassandra began. Married for 12 years to Helena Morrison née Chin. 3 kids. And here's the kicker. He's not a venture capitalist. He's a branch manager at Boston Savings and Loan. I stared at the photos. So Scarlett's dating a married man who's lying about his job? Oh, it gets better, Cassandra said with grim satisfaction. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Helena Morrison was Helena Chun when she was your roommate at MIT. The coffee cup slipped from my hand, clattering against the saucer. Helena? My Helena? Small world, Cassandra noted. I've reached out to her. She's very interested in talking to you. But first, Cassandra had more revelations about Scarlett. My sister, it turned out, had never actually completed her degree. She'd been expelled in her final year for plagiarism and had been faking her credentials ever since. The art gallery hadn't just failed. She'd been sued by 3 artists for selling their work and keeping the profits. There's more, Cassandra warned. Your sister has been running romance scams on multiple dating platforms. I've identified at least 4 victims willing to talk. One of them lost his entire retirement savings. My hands shook as I reviewed the evidence. How did I not know any of this? Because you're a good person who doesn't think like a criminal, Cassandra said gently. And because your parents have been enabling and covering for her. Speaking of which, she produced another set of documents. My parents' financial records, obtained through methods I didn't ask about, painted a picture of desperation. My father hadn't just made bad investments. He'd fallen for a cryptocurrency scam that had drained their savings. My mother's design business was a front. She hadn't had a real client in 18 months. They're 3 months behind on their mortgage, Cassandra revealed. The house is in pre-foreclosure. They need your money to save themselves, not to fund Scarlett's retreat. That evening, I sat with Preston, surrounded by evidence of my family's deception. He held my hand as I processed the magnitude of their betrayal. There's one more thing, I said quietly. I need to meet with Helena. Are you sure? Preston asked. This is already so much. I need to know everything, I said firmly. Every lie, every scheme, every betrayal. When I confront them, I want to be holding all the cards. The meeting with Helena was arranged for the next day. As I prepared for bed that night, my phone buzzed with another unknown number. You think you know the worst? Check your grandmother's will. Check what was really left to you. A friend. I stared at the message, a cold dread settling in my stomach. What else could there possibly be? Helena agreed to meet me at a Starbucks in Brookline, neutral territory where neither of us would feel trapped. I arrived early, nursing a black coffee and trying to calm my nerves. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. The Helena I remembered from MIT had been vibrant, always laughing. This woman looked tired, worn down by life. Meredith, she said simply, sliding into the seat across from me. I wondered when this day would come. You knew about Scarlett and Garrett? I've known for 8 months. Helena's laugh was bitter. Found the texts, the photos, the credit card charges. Did you know your sister has expensive tastes? Garrett's been funding them with our children's college funds. My stomach turned. Helena, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Of course you didn't, she interrupted. You were always the decent one in your family. The only one who treated me like a person at that graduation party instead of the hired help. I remembered that party, how my parents had been coldly polite to Helena, barely acknowledging her despite her being my roommate for 3 years. I'd been mortified then. Now I was simply disgusted. Scarlett's blackmailing him, Helena continued. She has videos, photos, threatens to send them to his employer, to our children's schools. She wants him to leave me, but more importantly, she wants him to approve a fraudulent loan application at his bank. For the retreat? I guessed. There is no retreat, Helena said flatly. I hired my own investigator. That property she's talking about? It doesn't exist. The photos she's been showing are stolen from a resort website in Vermont. The whole thing is a con. I pulled out my phone, showing her the evidence Cassandra had compiled. Helena reviewed it with the analytical eye I remembered from our study sessions. This is more thorough than what I found, she admitted. Your investigator is good. But there's something you don't have here. The FBI connection. FBI. I sat straighter. They're investigating Scarlett? For the past 6 months, Helena confirmed. One of her romance scam victims was a retired federal judge. He didn't take kindly to losing $200,000 to a fake charity she was supposedly running. Garrett's been cooperating with them to avoid charges himself. We spent the next hour sharing information. Helena had recordings of Scarlett threatening Garrett, demanding he push through loan applications for people who didn't exist. I had the forensic accounting showing where the money actually went. Together, we had enough to bury Scarlett, but Helena said something that chilled me. This isn't just about Scarlett. Your parents are in on it. Garrett overheard them coaching her on what to say to you. They've been planning this birthday ambush for months. That evening, Cassandra called with urgent news. Remember that text about your grandmother's will? I did some digging. You need to sit down for this. I was already sitting, Preston beside me, but I gripped his hand tighter. Tell me, Your grandmother died when you were 22, right? Left educational trusts for all grandchildren. Yes, 25,000 each for education expenses. Mine paid for part of MIT. Try 400,000 each, Cassandra said grimly. I pulled the original will from probate court. Your parents were the trustees. They told you it was 25,000, gave you that amount, and kept the rest. The room spun. That's theft. It's worse, Cassandra continued. They gave Scarlett access to her trust and yours. The money's gone, all of it, spent on her failed businesses and their lifestyle. Marcus's trust is intact only because he had a different trustee, your mother's brother, who apparently has integrity. They stole $375,000 from me. My voice sounded strange, detached. Plus 20 years of interest, Cassandra added. We're talking close to $1 million they've stolen from you over your lifetime. Preston poured me a whiskey, which I downed in one burn. My phone buzzed, Marcus calling from London. It was past midnight there. Meredith? I heard you're digging into family finances. Be careful. I'm sending you something. Marcus, did you know about the trust funds? A long pause. I found out last year. It's why I've stayed in London. I couldn't face being around them, knowing what they did to you. Check your email. The email contained screenshots from a family group chat I'd never known existed. Family -1 it was called. The one was me. The messages went back years. My parents and Scarlett discussing how to get money from me, mocking my career achievements, calling me their cash cow and emergency fund. The cruelest messages were from Scarlett. She's so pathetic, thinking we might actually care about her promotion. Did you see her face when we canceled her birthday dinner for my gallery opening? Priceless. She'll hand over the money. She's too desperate for mommy and daddy's approval to say no. The boyfriend might be a problem. We need to get her alone. Don't worry, I've got Garrett to play along. He'll do anything to keep his wife from finding out. I scrolled through years of calculated cruelty, each message another knife in my back. But the final thread, from just last week, was the worst. Phase 1 complete. She took the baited dinner. Give her a few days to feel guilty. Then mom should call crying about losing the house. If that doesn't work, I'll threaten suicide. She always caves when I play that card. Brilliant, darling, my mother had responded. Though let's save the suicide threat as a last resort. We don't want her getting suspicious. She's too stupid to be suspicious, my father had added. Probably already planning how to liquidate her assets. This time next month, we'll be clear of debt and setting up the real estate venture in Florida. What real estate venture? Scarlett had asked. The one we're funding with her money, sweetheart. You didn't think we were actually doing your wellness retreat idea? Preston read over my shoulder, his face darkening with each message. They're monsters, he said quietly. Your entire family except Marcus. They're absolute monsters. There's more, Marcus had written in his email. They've done this before. Mom's sister, our Aunt Caroline? She cut them off 20 years ago after they tried something similar. And Dad's brother in California. There's a pattern, Meredith. You're just the latest target. I spent the rest of the night with Cassandra on speaker, planning our next moves. She'd found 3 of Scarlett's romance scam victims willing to testify. The FBI agent on the case was interested in what we'd uncovered. Helena had hired a divorce attorney and was documenting everything for both custody and criminal proceedings. You have enough to destroy them, Cassandra summarized. The question is, how do you want to play it? I thought about 27 years of being the responsible one, the forgotten one, the one who was only valued for her bank account. I thought about every birthday they'd ruined, every achievement they dismissed, every moment of love they'd withheld as punishment for not being Scarlett. I want them to think they've won, I said finally. Right up until the moment they lose everything. Preston squeezed my hand. What did you have in mind? A family dinner, I said, my smile sharp as a blade. Where I agree to their terms. Where I play the dutiful daughter one last time. Where they confess everything while thinking they're safe. You'll need witnesses, Cassandra noted. And legal recording equipment. I'll need more than that, I corrected. I'll need Helena, the FBI, and every person they've ever scammed in that room. Can you make that happen? Cassandra's grin was predatory. Honey, destroying awful people is literally my job. Give me a week. Make it 4 days, I said. The wellness retreat deadline is coming up, and I want them desperate enough to be sloppy. As we ended the call, Preston pulled me close. Are you sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. No family reconciliation down the road. They're not my family, I said firmly. They're just people I share DNA with who've been stealing from me my entire life. Family doesn't do this to family. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. Darling, I'm so worried about you. You seemed upset at dinner.
Can we talk?
I have something important to tell you about the house. I showed Preston the message, comparing it to the group chat where she'd outlined this exact manipulation tactic. So predictable, he murmured. What are you going to say? I typed back. Let's have dinner Friday. All of us. I have an answer about the investment. Her response was immediate. Wonderful. I knew you'd come around. Family first, always. Family first, I repeated, thinking of all the evidence stored safely in multiple locations. Too bad they never learned what that actually means. I chose the venue carefully. Not Morton's this time, but a private dining room at the Harbor Club, a place that catered to Boston's business elite and, more importantly, had excellent acoustics and a sophisticated recording system for corporate presentations. I'd booked it under my company's name, claiming we needed it for a client dinner. The setup took 3 hours. Cassandra's team installed cameras with angles covering every seat. The recording equipment was legal and visible, disguised as standard conference room tech. I'd hired a private security firm, 2 discreet professionals who would blend in as waitstaff until needed. The FBI agents will be in the adjacent room, Cassandra explained, testing the audio feed. They'll be able to see and hear everything. Helena's arriving separately with her lawyer. The 3 fraud victims are already here, waiting in the bar downstairs. I dressed carefully for the occasion, choosing a simple but expensive black dress, the kind that whispered rather than shouted success. Preston straightened my necklace, a delicate piece I'd bought myself after making partner. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. We could just turn everything over to the authorities and walk away. No, I said firmly. They've spent 27 years thinking I'm weak, stupid, desperate for their approval. I want them to confess while looking me in the eye. I want them to know, in the end, that I knew everything. My family arrived together, a united front. My father wore his power suit, the one he used to wear for board meetings. My mother had chosen designer everything, probably purchased with credit cards they couldn't pay. Scarlett swept in wearing what looked like a cocktail dress, inappropriate for a family dinner but perfect for celebrating her expected windfall. Garrett trailed behind them, and I noticed the sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the cool evening. He knew Helena had filed for divorce, knew the FBI was closing in, but Scarlett had him on too tight a leash to run. Meredith, darling. My mother air-kissed my cheek. You look tired. Are you eating enough? I'm fine, Mom, I said pleasantly. Please, everyone sit. I've ordered champagne to start. They arranged themselves with practiced precision. My parents flanking Scarlett like bodyguards, Garrett slightly apart, fidgeting with his phone. I remained standing, channeling every negotiation tactic I'd learned in 15 years of corporate warfare. Before we begin, I said, I want to be clear about what we're discussing. Scarlett needs $500,000 for her wellness retreat. You've asked me to provide this as an investment. Is that correct? Investment, loan, gift. Scarlett waved her hand dismissively. Whatever makes you comfortable with helping your family. I appreciate the flexibility, I said dryly. I've done some research since our last dinner. The property in the Berkshires sounds wonderful. Tell me more about it. Scarlett launched into her practiced pitch, describing buildings that didn't exist on land she'd never seen. I let her talk, occasionally asking questions that seemed supportive but actually trapped her in lies. My father relaxed, sensing victory. My mother actually smiled at me, the first genuine-seeming smile in years. And your other investors? I prompted. You mentioned they're already committed? Oh yes, Scarlett lied smoothly. We have half the funding secured. Your contribution would complete the round. Excellent. Could you share their names? For my records? A flicker of panic, quickly suppressed. They prefer to remain silent partners. You understand. Of course, I nodded. And Garrett's involvement? He's advising on the business structure? Garrett jerked like I'd slapped him. Yes. The structure. Very sound. He's been invaluable, Scarlett purred, placing a possessive hand on his arm. Haven't you, darling? I pulled out a folder, thick with documents. My family leaned forward, probably expecting contracts to sign. Instead, I spread out financial records, bank statements, screenshots from their group chat. Let's discuss sound business structures, I said conversationally. Like the art gallery that lost $1.2 million. Or the jewelry line that never produced a single piece, but somehow spent $300,000. Or my personal favorite, the food truck that operated for exactly 1 week before health inspectors condemned it. Scarlett's face flushed. Those were learning experiences. Expensive ones, I continued. Funded entirely by Mom and Dad. Which brings us to this interesting mortgage document. 3 mortgages on 1 house. That's aggressive leveraging. My father stood. How dare you investigate us? Sit down, Dad. I said calmly. We're just getting started. Let's talk about the cryptocurrency investment that cost you $800,000. The one Mom begged you not to make. The one that was obviously a scam to anyone who bothered to Google it. You have no right, my mother hissed. Actually, I do, I corrected. See, when someone asks me for $500,000, I have every right to understand their financial situation. Due diligence, remember? I pulled out more papers. But let's move on to more interesting topics. Like grandmother's will. The one that left $400,000 to each grandchild, not $25,000 like you told me. The color drained from my mother's face. I don't know what you're talking about. No? Then let me refresh your memory. I read from the probate documents, each word a nail in their coffin. The trustees, Theodore and Diane Caldwell, shall distribute said funds for the education and welfare of the beneficiaries. Funny how my education only cost $25,000 while Scarlett's consumed $775,000. You're twisting things, Scarlett said desperately. We can explain. Please do, I said. Explain how my trust fund paid for your trips to Europe. Explain how it funded your failed businesses. Explain how my inheritance became your personal piggy bank. Garrett tried to stand. I should go. Sit down, Garrett, I said sharply. Your wife wants you to see this through. He collapsed back into his chair as the implications hit. I pressed a button on the conference phone, and Helena's voice filled the room. Hello, Garrett. Surprise. No, he whispered. Helena, I can explain. Save it for the divorce proceedings, Helena said coldly. I'm here with my attorney and some very interesting federal agents who want to discuss those loan applications Scarlett had you push through. Scarlett turned on Garrett, her mask finally slipping. You told her? You pathetic little man. You were supposed to. To what? I interrupted. Commit federal crimes for you? Destroy his family for you? All while you were planning to dump him once you got my money? I pulled up the screenshots from their group chat on the room's presentation screen. Let's see, here's where you call him pathetically easy to manipulate. And here's where you're discussing which wealthy mark to pursue after you've bled him dry. My family watched their own words scroll across the screen. The casual cruelty, the calculated schemes, the mockery of me. Everything. My favorite part, I said conversationally, is where you discuss using a suicide threat to manipulate me. Very creative, Scarlett. Though apparently not original, since you used the same threat on victim number 3. Victim? My father tried to bluster. Meredith, these are family discussions taken out of context. Like this context? I clicked to another screenshot, where you write, and I quote, she's too stupid to be suspicious. This time next month, we'll be clear of debt and setting up the real estate venture in Florida. Care to tell me about that venture, Dad? The one you were planning to fund with my money? Silence. Beautiful, damning silence. But wait, I continued. There's more. Should we discuss the 3 fraud complaints against Scarlett that you paid to make disappear? Or the romance scams she's been running? 62-year-old Robert Lynch, who lost his retirement savings to a fake charity. 45-year-old David Chen, who thought he was investing in a startup. 58-year-old James Parker, who believed he was helping his girlfriend's sick mother. With each name, I placed a photo on the table. Real people, real victims, real lives destroyed. They're all here tonight, I announced. Waiting downstairs with FBI agents who are very interested in their stories. FBI. Scarlett's voice cracked. You're lying. Agent Sarah Coleman, Financial Crimes Division, a voice said from the doorway. A woman in a crisp suit entered, followed by 2 other agents. Miss Caldwell, we have some questions about your online activities. This is entrapment, my father shouted. My daughter set us up. No, Agent Coleman said calmly. Your daughter provided evidence of crimes we were already investigating. You set yourselves up with every fraudulent transaction, every threatening message, every stolen dollar. But I wasn't done. I had one more card to play. There's something else, I said, pulling out the final folder. Cassandra found some interesting patterns. Aunt Caroline, who cut you off 20 years ago after you tried to scam her out of her inheritance. Uncle Robert in California, who pressed charges before you paid him off. The Weatherby family, who mysteriously ended their 40-year friendship with you after their daughter's trust fund went missing. You've been doing this for decades, I said, looking directly at my parents. I'm just the latest in a long line of victims. Your own daughter. My mother broke first. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We had money, success. But the market crashed and Ted made those investments and Scarlett needed help and you had so much. It wasn't fair that you succeeded when we were struggling. So you stole from me, I said simply. For 20 years you stole from me. Family helps family, she cried. Family doesn't steal from family, I shot back. Family doesn't mock and belittle and manipulate family. Family doesn't plan to destroy family. Scarlett tried one last manipulation. Meredith, please. We're sisters. Remember when we were little? How close we were? We were never close, I said coldly. You made sure of that. Every birthday you ruined, every achievement you diminished, every moment you made about yourself. You're not my sister. You're just a criminal who happens to share my DNA. The FBI agents stepped forward. Scarlett Caldwell, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As they read her rights, Scarlett screamed at me. You've destroyed us. Your own family. How could you? The same way you could steal from me, I replied. The same way you could plan to take my life savings. The same way you could laugh about my desperation for your approval. Easily. My parents weren't arrested, not yet, but Agent Coleman made it clear they would be investigated for their role in the trust fund theft and the cover-ups of Scarlett's crimes. As they were let out, my father turned to me one last time. You've killed this family. No, I said firmly. You killed it the day you chose greed over love. I just held the funeral. The room emptied until only Preston, Helena, and I remained. Helena hugged me tightly. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. After she left, Preston and I sat in the empty room, surrounded by the debris of my former life. He took my hand, and I noticed the small velvet box he pulled from his pocket. This might be terrible timing, he said, but I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And I realized something tonight. You're the strongest, bravest person I know. You stood up to decades of abuse and manipulation. You protected victims you didn't even know. You chose justice over the false comfort of denial. He dropped to one knee. Meredith Caldwell, will you marry me and help me build the kind of family you always deserved? Through tears, real tears, not the manipulative kind I'd grown up with, I said yes. In the room where I'd ended one family, I began another. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within 24 hours, Scarlett's arrest made the Boston Globe's business section. Wellness retreat scam leads to federal charges. The headline read. By the end of the week, it was picked up nationally. The sister scam. How family betrayal led to FBI investigation. I'd prepared for this, working with a PR firm to control the narrative. My role was presented as a successful professional who uncovered fraud and worked with authorities, not a family drama. Still, my phone rang constantly with reporters wanting the human interest angle. No comment became my mantra, but inside, each revelation felt like another weight lifting. The security footage from the dinner, legally recorded with notices posted, became key evidence. But there were moments the cameras caught that I hadn't expected to matter, like Garrett's expression when he realized his marriage was over, or my mother's face when she understood her lifestyle was ending. 3 days after the arrest, my parents' house was raided. The FBI found evidence of a decade of financial crimes, including documents they'd hidden about other family members they'd scammed. My father had kept meticulous records, apparently planning to write a book about his investment strategies someday. Among the evidence was a safety deposit box key. Inside, investigators found jewelry that had belonged to my grandmother, pieces my mother had told me were lost. There was also a letter, written in my grandmother's shaky handwriting. For my granddaughter Meredith, the responsible one. I fear your parents will not honor my wishes, so I write this as insurance. You were always special, always kind. Don't let them dim your light. I sobbed when the FBI agent showed me the letter. All those years of feeling unseen, and my grandmother had seen me clearly. The civil lawsuit I filed for the stolen trust funds moved quickly. With the evidence from the criminal case, my parents had no defense. Their lawyer, clearly working pro bono, advised them to settle. The house, already in foreclosure, would be sold. The proceeds, along with their remaining assets, would go toward restitution. It won't be the full amount, my lawyer explained. Maybe 60 cents on the dollar after legal fees. It's not about the money, I said honestly. It's about accountability. Marcus flew in from London for the proceedings. We met at a coffee shop near the courthouse, 2 siblings navigating the wreckage of our family. I should have warned you, he said quietly. I knew something was off, but I chose distance over confrontation. You were protecting yourself, I said. I don't blame you for that. Still, he sighed. I'm the one who sent those anonymous texts. I couldn't stand by and watch them destroy you like they tried to destroy me. They tried to scam you too? When I graduated, he confirmed. Wanted me to invest in some import-export scheme. When I refused and moved to London, they told everyone I abandoned the family. Sound familiar? We talked for hours, piecing together patterns we'd been too young or too isolated to see before. It was healing, in a way, to know I wasn't alone in the experience. The criminal trial was set for 6 months out, but Scarlett's lawyer was already floating plea deals. The evidence was overwhelming. Between the fraud victims' testimonies, Garrett's cooperation, and the digital trail she'd left, conviction was certain. Garrett himself had pled guilty to conspiracy charges in exchange for probation and testimony. Helena told me he'd moved back in with his parents, lost his job, and was working at a grocery store while rebuilding his life. I felt a twinge of sympathy. He'd been a fool, but Scarlett had targeted him as surely as she'd targeted her other victims. My parents, meanwhile, were fighting among themselves. Dad blamed Mom for enabling Scarlett. Mom blamed Dad for the bad investments. They'd hired separate lawyers, and divorce proceedings had begun alongside the criminal investigations. The family that had schemed together was tearing itself apart. A month after the dinner, I received a call from Aunt Caroline, my mother's sister, who'd cut them off 20 years ago. I heard about what happened, she said simply. I'm proud of you for doing what I couldn't, for finishing what I started. What exactly did they do to you? I asked. Convince me to invest in a business opportunity, she said bitterly. Your mother's first boutique. I lost everything. When I confronted them, they turned the family against me, said I was jealous of their success. I've spent 20 years being the bitter aunt who chose money over family. I'm so sorry, I said, meaning it. Don't be. Caroline said firmly. You've given me vindication. And you've stopped them from doing it to anyone else. That's worth more than any apology. We made plans to meet, to rebuild a relationship stolen by greed and lies. The day of Scarlett's sentencing arrived 6 months later. She'd eventually taken a plea deal. 5 years in federal prison, 3 years probation, and full restitution to her victims. It was less than the maximum, but the prosecutor assured me it was substantial for financial crimes. I attended the sentencing with Preston, now my husband. We'd married quietly at City Hall, with just Marcus, Helena, and a few close friends. No elaborate wedding, no family drama, just love and commitment. Scarlett looked different in her prison jumpsuit. The designer clothes and careful makeup were gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed woman who'd finally run out of schemes. When given the chance to speak, she chose manipulation one last time. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused, she read from a prepared statement. I was sick, addicted to the thrill of the con. I hope someday my family, especially my sister, can forgive me. The judge wasn't moved. Miss Caldwell, you've shown a pattern of predatory behavior spanning years. You've destroyed lives, betrayed trust, and shown no genuine remorse until caught. Your apology rings hollow when contrasted with your statements calling your victims stupid and easy marks. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. I saw hatred there, not remorse. She'd learned nothing. My parents' trials were quieter affairs. They both pled guilty to lesser charges. My father got 18 months for tax fraud and theft. My mother got probation for her role in covering up Scarlett's crimes. They were both permanently disgraced, their social standing destroyed. I saw them only once more, at the final settlement conference for the civil suits. They looked older, smaller somehow. My mother tried to approach me, but I held up my hand. I have nothing to say to you, I said quietly. And there's nothing you can say that would matter. We're your parents, my father said weakly. No, y correcte. You're criminals who happened to raise me. There's a difference. As Preston and I left the courthouse for the last time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not happiness, exactly, but the quiet satisfaction of justice served and truth revealed. Any regrets? Preston asked as we walked to our car. I thought about it seriously. No, I said finally. They made their choices every day for 20 years. I just made mine once. And what choice was that? To stop being their victim, I said simply. To stop letting them define my worth by their approval. To choose truth over comfortable lies. That night, we had dinner with our chosen family. Marcus, Helena and her kids, Cassandra, who'd become a friend, Jerome, and some colleagues who'd supported me through the ordeal. It was loud and chaotic and full of genuine laughter. A toast, Marcus proposed, raising his glass. To Meredith, who did what I was too scared to do. Who saved not just herself, but unknown future victims. Who chose justice over silence. To family, I countered, looking around the table. The kind you choose, not the kind you're stuck with. As we clinked glasses, I realized something profound. My parents and Scarlett had spent decades trying to make me feel worthless, valuable only for what they could take from me. But in exposing their lies, I discovered my true worth, not in dollars or achievements, but in the courage to stand up, speak out, and refuse to be complicit in their crimes. They'd wanted my money. Instead, they got my justice. And in the end, that was worth more than all the wellness retreats in the world. 6 months after Scarlett's sentencing, I found myself in an unexpected place, speaking at a financial abuse survivors conference. The organizer, a woman who'd lost her retirement to a family investment scam, had reached out after reading about my case. Your story gives people hope, she'd said, that it's possible to get justice, even against family. Standing at that podium, looking out at a room full of people who'd been betrayed by those they trusted most, I felt the weight of responsibility. These weren't just victims. They were survivors, each carrying their own story of family financial abuse. The hardest part, I began, wasn't discovering the theft. It wasn't even the investigation or the trials. The hardest part was accepting that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had conditions, and those conditions were access to my bank account. Nods around the room. Understanding. Shared pain. I spent years in therapy trying to understand why I kept seeking their approval despite all evidence that it would never come. My therapist helped me realize I wasn't seeking approval from the people they were, but from the parents I wished they had been. I was chasing a fantasy. I talked about the guilt that came with prosecution. People said, "But they're your family." As if DNA was a free pass for criminal behavior. As if sharing genetics meant I had to accept being stolen from, lied to, manipulated. The guilt is real, I continued. I won't pretend otherwise. There were nights I woke up wondering if I'd overreacted, if I should have just given them the money and walked away. But then I'd remember the text messages mocking me. The decades of stolen inheritance. The other victims whose lives they'd destroyed. And I'd know I did the right thing. The healing journey wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others. Mother's Day and Father's Day became exercises in grief, mourning parents I'd never actually had. Birthdays were complicated, simultaneously freed from disappointment, but tinged with sadness. I started a new tradition, I shared. On my birthday, instead of waiting for recognition that never came, I celebrate myself. I take the day off, do something I love, surround myself with chosen family. This year, Preston threw me a surprise party with all the people who supported me through the trial. It was the first birthday party where I felt truly celebrated. The foundation I'd started, funded partly by the restitution money, helped other victims of family financial fraud. We provided legal resources, therapy referrals, and most importantly, validation that their experiences were real and their pain was valid. Family financial abuse is underreported, I explained. Shame keeps victims silent. Fear of being disbelieved, of being seen as ungrateful or vindictive. But silence enables abuse. Speaking up, as painful as it is, can save others. Through the foundation, I met dozens of people with similar stories. Adult children whose parents drained their savings. Siblings who stole inheritances. Spouses who had debt and fraud. Each story reinforced that my experience wasn't unique, just uniquely public. Marcus became involved with the foundation too, offering perspective as someone who'd escaped before being fully victimized. The key, he often said, is recognizing the patterns early. The guilt trips, the boundary violations, the financial secrecy. These are red flags, not family quirks. Helena and I grew closer through our shared experience. Her children, resilient and adaptable, became part of our extended chosen family. Garrett had disappeared from their lives, last heard working in another state, trying to rebuild away from the scandal. The kids are doing better, Helena told me over coffee one day. The truth, as hard as it was, freed them from the confusion of sensing something wrong but not knowing what. Now they understand why Daddy left, and it wasn't their fault. My relationship with Preston deepened through the ordeal. He'd seen me at my lowest, supported me through decisions that many would have questioned, and never once suggested I should have chosen differently. "You know what I love most about our life?" he said one evening as we cooked dinner together. "There's no pretense.
No manipulación. No hidden agendas.
Just honesty and mutual respect." Revolutionary concept in the Caldwell family, I replied dryly. "Former Caldwell family," he corrected. "You're a Morrison now." And we Morrisons have a strict policy of actually loving and supporting each other. The legal aftermath continued for years. Appeals were filed and denied. Restitution payments trickled in as assets were liquidated. I donated most of it to the foundation, keeping only what had been directly stolen from my trust fund. My parents, last I heard, were living separately in small apartments, working minimum wage jobs to survive. They'd tried reaching out through intermediaries, claiming they'd changed, that prison had reformed them. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. Scarlett served 3 years before being released on good behavior. She was required to maintain employment and pay restitution as part of her parole. The last update from her parole officer indicated she was working at a call center and living in a halfway house. She'd made no attempt to contact me, which was a condition of her release. Sometimes I wondered if they ever truly understood what they'd done wrong, or if they only regretted getting caught. The family group chat messages suggested the latter, but people could change. I hoped, for their own sakes, they would find genuine remorse and reform. But that journey was theirs to make, not mine to monitor. The speaking engagement ended with questions from the audience. A young woman, probably mid-20s, raised her hand. My family is pressuring me to invest in my brother's business. Everything you've said sounds familiar. The guilt trips, the family helps family speeches. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm just being selfish? I smiled gently. Due diligence isn't selfish. Protecting your financial future isn't selfish. If the business is legitimate, they should welcome your questions and provide documentation. If they react with anger or manipulation to reasonable requests for information, that's your answer. But they're family, she said, voice small. So are you, I replied. You're family too, and you deserve the same consideration and respect you're expected to give. Family isn't a one-way street where you give and they take. It's supposed to be mutual support, mutual respect, mutual love. An older man asked, "Do you ever regret going public? Airing family laundry, as they say?" "No," I said firmly. "Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Keeping family crimes secret only enables more victims." My story helped Aunt Caroline get vindication after 20 years. It helped Helena protect her children. It helped future victims avoid scarlet scams. That's worth more than protecting the family reputation. As the event concluded, people approached with their own stories. Each handshake, each hug, each "thank you for speaking up" reinforced that I'd made the right choice. That night, Preston and I attended a dinner party with friends who'd become our chosen family. Normal people with normal problems, who complained about work and celebrated promotions, who borrowed cups of sugar and returned them, who showed up for birthdays without calculating what they could extract. "You know what I realized?" I said to Preston as we drove home. "I spent so long trying to earn my family's love that I almost missed all the love freely given around me. They taught me I had to pay for affection, achieve for attention, sacrifice for scraps of approval. But real love doesn't keep a balance sheet." Deep thoughts for Saturday night, he teased gently. "I'm serious," I continued. "They wanted my money, but lost their daughter. I wanted their love, but found my freedom. And somehow, in losing them, I gained so much more. A husband who loves me for me, not my bank account. Friends who celebrate my successes without calculating how to profit from them. A brother who chose integrity over enablement. A life built on truth instead of manipulation. And the lesson in all that?" Preston asked. I thought for a moment. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and others, is refuse to enable abuse. Sometimes burning bridges doesn't leave you stranded, it lights the way forward. And sometimes the family you choose is worth more than the family you're born into. To chosen family, Preston toasted when we got home, pouring 2 glasses of wine. To truth, I countered. However painful, however costly, however divisive. To the truth that sets us free. As we clinked glasses, I felt the last weight of guilt lift. My parents and Scarlett had made their choices every day for decades. I'd simply held up a mirror to those choices and demanded accountability. They called it betrayal. I called it justice. They said I destroyed the family. I said the family destroyed itself. They claimed I chose money over blood. I knew I chose integrity over complicity. In the end, on my 35th birthday, I didn't just age another year. I was reborn into a life of authenticity, surrounded by genuine love, free from the emotional extortion that had defined my first 3 decades. And that freedom? That was worth more than any wellness retreat, any false family harmony, any manipulated approval. It was worth everything. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered, raising my glass to the future. A future built on truth, chosen with courage, and lived without apology. The greatest gift I ever gave myself was the strength to say no. And sometimes, no is the most loving word in any language. I hope my story helps you find your own strength, recognize your own worth, and build your own chosen family. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Like and subscribe if you believe in the power of truth over comfortable lies. And remember, you deserve love that doesn't come with a price tag. What boundaries have you had to set with family to protect your peace? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Together, we can break the silence around family financial abuse and help others find their freedom too. Until next time, this is Meredith, reminding you that your worth isn't measured by what others can take from you, but by what you choose to build for yourself. Stay strong, stay true, and never apologize for protecting your peace.